Welcome. Now we're going to take a look at creating an invoice template or editing an invoice template in our PrintVis Business Central system. Invoice templates are useful because they tell our system how to build the invoice for a customer based on the production job. To access the invoice templates, we search for invoice templates in our search field and select PrintVis invoice template list. Your system should have at least one invoice template in order to do invoices because, like I said, this tells the system how to build the invoice for your customers. You can create as many invoice templates as you'd like and have one for standard jobs, one for your eco-label jobs, such as your FSC or SFI jobs, where certain information has to be included on the invoice, or even customer-specific invoice templates where your customer has specific invoicing requirements. So there's a lot of flexibility in the system, and it allows you to do various things with the layout of the invoice. To access an invoice template, what you do once you have the list pulled up is you simply click on the code, and this opens our invoice template. We can see here there are several different aspects to this. The first is the code name, in this case our standard, and the description, and what it's going to build from. This tells the system whether it's going to build from blank, from the quote, whether it's going to be built on the invoice lines from the quote, whether it's going to be built from the order, in which case it will build it from the active order on a case card. The important thing to remember is that if you build it from the quote or the order and you make any changes to those active lines once the job or prior to the job being invoiced, it will affect the invoice amount. So if you create a quote and send a quote to your customer and they approve it, once it's been approved and it comes back as a job, if your build from is set to an order and you make any changes to that order line, then the dollar amount that is invoiced could change from the amount that was quoted. In that case, we recommend creating a production order to make the changes to, which we'll talk about in another video. And then the invoice method. The invoice method determines how it is built, whether it's built on the case level, whether it's one line for the entire case, whether it's based on the job level, in which case it will do one line for each job in the case that you have multiple jobs in the case, or it can be set up for a number of other options. In this case, we're building it on the case level. In our invoice template line section, we tell the system what lines to pull into our invoice, and it will build lines based on those things. We are pulling in the invoice number, we're pulling in our main invoice, and then the information from the case, as well as a manual text field that says, "We thank you for your business." So we can include however many line tiers we'd like with any information that we'd like, and we'll go into that in just a minute. Under settings, we can select the auto build invoice. If this is set to yes, as soon as the invoicing is begun in our production case, it will automatically build that invoice so that you do not have to hit process or build in order for that invoice to be built. This is handy when you do not want anybody to make any changes to the template, but if you want to be able to add additional lines or change some additional information on the template before it is built, then you may want to leave that unchecked. And then under the information section, we can simply see the date that this invoice template was created, the last time that it was modified, who created it, and who modified it. To modify this, right at the moment, you'll notice that it's grayed out and I can't make any changes. All I have to do is click on the pencil, and this enables editing in the system. From here, I can add an additional line, and I can select how it is picked, and you can add any additional things here, such as the description, a quantity or quantity type, or any comments that you'd like to add. In this case, we'll select a merge field and see what merge fields are created for the invoice. In that case, it's only going to pull in whatever is built in that invoice template. So this is where the merge fields for that invoice template come into play, and we'll take a look at it. If I edit that, we can see, so the invoice merge field is pulling in the job name, the description, and the active order version. And so that's going to build all of that information onto that one line right there. Okay, so I will delete that line. To create a new invoice template, all I have to do is from my invoice template list, hit new. Fill out my information. Now you'll notice that under the invoice method, there were several options: invoice based on job level, on case, special function based on shipment, PrintVis shipment, or shipment group on tax area. So doing it by shipment would allow us to build it out based on the shipments. If we're billing our customer based on shipments, this may benefit us in that regard. And then it automatically brings in certain lines, which we can then edit and change if we'd like to change. We can edit it. In this case, we'll go with our main invoice. We'll also add merge fields, invoice, and it will bring in that invoice information. And then we'll add one other field. If we leave it blank, we can just add in our information. We also have the option to add an item. If we want to add a picking and handling charge or anything else, we can also add in charges for a GL account. If we'd like to add instead of adding an item for our picking or our shipping and handling, we could add a GL account that assigns it and assign it to a GL account. In that case, instead of picking an item number, we'd pick a GL account number. So we could come in and pick any of our GL accounts for it to be assigned to, and it would put in that price. So we could do this, and we could do, if we did a GL account, we could do one for that. We'll do one quantity, unit price, $5, handling charge. And so that's all we need in our system. Now, if we go to invoice, that template will be available for us to use in our invoicing guide, which we'll cover in a future video. If you have any questions about the PrintVis invoicing template setup, please contact your PrintVis partner.